You want the players that are going to have those big games on your side. So let's make the right choices and pick the guys who are going to boom in week 14. Before we reveal our picks for this week, let me remind you that Underdog Fantasy is the place to go. You feel like you know who's going to have a big game, you can do the pick'ems and take the higher on some of your favorite picks. We're going to give you some of ours in a second. But here's the free one. If you are new to Underdog and you sign up right now using promo code ENDGAME, not only do you get a 100% deposit match up to $100 just for signing up, Najee Harris just needs to go higher than zero point 0.5 total yards. So if you're a new customer, you can get that pick and combine it with any other pick you want, and it doesn't just have to be NFL. They have every sport, players for every team, so many different options. Check it out now if you haven't already. It's fast, it's easy, and you could win money right away. All right, but let's talk about some of our favorite picks this coming week. Who's a player you think could have that massive upside?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. This one's even tough for me, but I can't ignore Austin Eckler this week. I know it's been 3 straight very bad games for Austin Eckler, and you're wondering, can I even start this guy in fantasy right now? And look, I get it. I'm with you. It's been terrible. But you got to trust him this week in this matchup against the Broncos. Not only are they bad against the run, and I know people are saying, like, well, they've been better, like it was skewed by that Miami game, and sure, that Miami game certainly has skewed the overall numbers. They allowed 8 yards per carry to the Bills a few weeks ago, 5.5 yards per carry to both the Vikings and the Browns, and we're talking about like Madison, Ty Chandler, Jerome Ford, and Kareem Hunt here, not like world beaters as far as running backs go. So I still think there is a path for Austin Eckler having a decent rushing game. He's never going to be a guy that's going to have a huge rushing game, but I think he can have a nice rushing game in this one. But why I really like Austin Eckler this week is for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Broncos have allowed at least 4 catches to running backs in every single game this year. I think we see Austin Eckler get 5+ catches. They have to do something. It's Keenan Allen and like nobody. They don't have anybody else to throw to. I think we see him get more involved in the receiving game. Also, they're at home. I think that's a big plus here. In a game they should be controlling, I think we finally see him find the end zone again. Maybe he finds it twice. So you combine that pass catching with the fact that he should be more efficient on the ground with the touchdown upside. I think people who go back to the well and put Austin Eckler in their lineup one more time are rewarded this week, and he booms.
Yeah, hard to imagine even thinking about not starting a guy like Austin Eckler, but look, the facts are the facts. I agree, though. You have to go with him this week. Now, it is hard to also think about not starting a guy like Devon Achane. That's exactly what I thought last week, so here's my mea culpa. I am never going to doubt Achane again if he's healthy. That was the question, though. How much run was he going to get? I said, I don't even know if they're going to give him the ball that much. So I'll tell you, for half, maybe even 3/4 of the game, I was right. And then I wasn't. First half of that game against Washington, he only got 5 touches for a total of 10 yards. That's exactly what I was afraid of. They just weren't going to give him the ball that much because they didn't need to. And they really didn't need to, but they did it anyways. Mike McDaniel then gave him 4 touches in the third quarter. Still not that big of a fantasy day, just a short touchdown. And then it was all Achane. In the fourth quarter, he couldn't stop getting the ball. At one point, he had 6 straight carries. They were feeding him, force feeding him the ball. And so, of course, what happened? He had a monster fantasy day because he's Devon Achane. So, look, I'm starting Devon Achane. I don't even care who the opponent is this week. It's Tennessee. It doesn't matter. But it does help that even though Tennessee is decent against the run, they're just not a good team. Miami's probably going to be winning. Miami's going to be able to afford to run the ball. And it's pretty clear they're going to give Achane opportunities. And he doesn't even need that many touches. It's kind of insane, but at this point in the season, Devon Achane is averaging 9.5 yards per carry. Now, granted, he hasn't gotten that many carries because he's been hurt a lot, but if he's healthy, which right now he clearly is, he is a guy you just have to start. He has 9 touchdowns on the season, and he's only touched the ball 69 times. This guy legit has multi-touchdown upside every single week. So, in this case, I'm just going to say, if you have Devon Achane, I don't even care who else you have to start him. All right, who else do you feel has week-breaking upside?
Yeah, I think Justin Fields coming off the bye at home against the Bears has week-breaking upside at quarterback. Look, we saw it 2 weeks ago against this Lions defense on the road. had 18 carries and over 100 rushing yards. But now he's at home, so should be even better throwing the ball. He's had 30 rush attempts the last 2 games combined. They're letting him loose. Remember, this is what we were worried about earlier in the year, or complaining about, I should say. Like, why aren't they letting him run the ball? Well, they're letting him run it now. I think Matt Eberflus realizes his job is on the line. He's got to do whatever it takes to win games, even if that's letting Justin Fields do what he wants to do, which is running the football. But I also think he can have a nice throwing game in this one, because the Lions suddenly, after looking like a great secondary early in the year, are bottom 5 against the pass. They've been one of the worst, if not the worst, secondary since week 7. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Did I miss some major injuries somehow? I'm not sure. But whatever the reason, they've gotten significantly worse. He's at home. He's got incredible rushing upside, but I think he also has great passing upside this week. And look, you talked about that Najee Harris new customer special. Maybe Underdog doesn't realize it yet, but his line, 189.5 passing yards. Yeah, I'm going to take the higher on that every single time. Even in the last game when they didn't have to throw it a lot, he still threw for 170 yards. He's gone over this in almost every single game he's been healthy this year. This line feels way, way too low. You pair this with that Najee Harris new customer special, easy way to triple your money right away.
Now, the running back start sit video, if you've seen that, I also like the line for Zach Moss at 70, high 70s in terms of rushing yards. Look, he didn't hit that last week, but that was against a pretty decent defense. His first week back in that feature role, he's going to be better this week. But also, it's the fact that he goes against Cincinnati, which has not been a great run defense. He has been really good when he's been featured, and JT is not coming back anytime soon. He got every single carry in that backfield. There is no other running back that even sniffs the field. All right, so Moss, workhorse back, check. Going against a inferior run defense for most of the season, check. Going against a team that, well, now looks like it's going to pose a threat maybe, Moss is going to be used heavily. He's getting a good matchup. He's got touchdown upside. So even though I was a little hesitant last week, we were pretty much saying you should start him. I'm definitely starting him week 14. All right, let's keep going. Who else could boom this week?
Yeah, I'm definitely starting Davante Adams this week. I know the week before the bye against KC kind of took a backseat to Jacoby Myers for the first time with Aiden O'Connell, but I'm not worried about that repeating itself, because that was the Chiefs, and they have a pretty good secondary. They obviously made an effort to shut down Davante Adams and make Jacoby Myers beat him, and even though he beat him, it wasn't enough to win the game. They got the job done. But now he's at home against the Minnesota Vikings, bottom 10 against wide receivers. They're not going to be able to do that with Davante Adams this week. And Davante Adams has had 13 targets in 3 of the 5 games with Aiden O'Connell. I think this goes back to being a game where Davante Adams gets double-digit targets. Jacoby Myers is hardly involved. It's basically just Josh Jacobs running the ball 20 times and Davante Adams getting 13 or more targets. This should be a huge game for Davante Adams this week. He's had a couple big games with Aiden O'Connell. I think he makes it another one at home in a smash matchup against this Vikings secondary that really doesn't have much of a chance against him this week. So if you got Adams, fire him up everywhere.
I'm going to talk about a receiver that is definitely not the number one guy on his team. Brandon Cooks. For a while, by the midpoint of the season, he was just droppable. And in fact, he wasn't even rostered in a lot of leagues because he hadn't done much. I was ready to give up on him after that Philadelphia Eagle game because he had 1 catch for 7 yards, even though it was a shootout. And then we saw Jalen Tolbert get involved. Like, what was going on here? But that, let me tell you, was a tipping point because a lot of things have changed since then. So first of all, we all recognize that the Dallas Cowboys passing offense has been the best in the NFL since that time. The Cowboys have won 4 straight since dropping that game to Philly, but specifically for Cooks, just when he kind of hit his low point, the very next week, he came back and had 9 catches for 173 yards. All right, now that was against the Giants, so take it with a grain of salt. But in 3 of the last 4 games, again, everything since that Philly game, he's scored a touchdown, and he's been heavily involved. I'm not going to look at what happened in that Philly game when the last time the Cowboys played him. I'm going to look at what's happened since then and how Cooks has been used. I think Dallas figured out they have to get him involved, and they're going to. And this Philadelphia defense has been significantly worse since that time also. I mean, we see they just got drubbed by the 49ers and specifically their wide receivers. Brandon Cooks definitely has a path to upside. I'm not sure what it is with this Philly defense, except their corners just aren't what they used to be. Darius Slay is still good, but not great anymore. He's their top corner, undoubtedly. And in terms of PFF grades, he is 56th among all corners. The next guy, James Bradbury, he's 73rd. The secondary is just not getting the job done against top offenses. And the Cowboys are clearly a top offense at this point. So I'm going to bet on Brandon Cooks doing what he's been doing, having a really good game. He's a guy I'm going to try to find a way to fit in my lineups everywhere. All right, we have another veteran receiver in mind that might go off.
Yeah, this guy's been, I mean, he hasn't really been booming or going off, but he's certainly been scoring touchdowns, and that is Courtland Sutton. He has a touchdown in all but 3 games this year, which is pretty remarkable considering the offense he plays in. I mean, I don't know how many touchdowns the Broncos have scored on the year, but he has to have more than half of them without a doubt. And he should have another great chance to score this week because they're playing the Chargers, who this defense has been very bad. I mean, don't look at what happened last week with the Patriots. You got to throw that out the window. The Patriots aren't even a real NFL offense. Chargers defense have not been good this year. They're giving up the 3rd most points to wide receivers. They cannot stop the pass. They cannot stop anybody. We just saw that Zay Flowers, remember 2 weeks ago, had 2 touchdowns against this defense. I don't see why Courtland Sutton can't get another touchdown this week. And you got to think that Chargers at home should be better offensively. Talked about it when I talked about Austin Eckler. They should be able to put the Broncos in a position kind of like last week against Houston, where they need to throw the ball more than they want. They need to take shots down the field. They need to score touchdowns. And that means Russ throwing to Courtland Sutton because we know it's not going to be Jerry Jeudy. So Courtland Sutton should definitely continue scoring touchdowns this week. But against his Chargers defense, he might even catch some passes and get some yards as well to give you an actual boom week. So Courtland Sutton to me this week, a high upside wide receiver that I'm finding ways to play if possible.
All right, now you start out this week's with a crazy pick of Austin Eckler because it's crazy that we even have to talk about him potentially having a big game. This guy's just been a stud for years. I'm going to get just as crazy and talk about Cooper Kupp because it's like we need to convince ourselves that he is even worth starting. That's where we're at. A lot of people talk about him being washed up, like he's just no good anymore. I think we have to pump the brakes there a little bit. Now, I understand. He definitely has not been, what we hoped for. I think that's part of the problem. It's just the massive expectations. Looking at what we saw, he actually played in week 13 the whole game. And no, he didn't put up big numbers, but he actually looked healthy. That's all I'm looking for. Is he good to go? Is there anything that's going to limit him? He looked better. He did catch a touchdown. The yardage wasn't there just because the targets were not there as much. It was more Puka. So just when we're ready to say, yeah, Kupp is out, Puka's in, I don't think so. Kupp is going to be more involved. The problem here, and Matt Harmon pointed this out on social media, is that Cooper Kupp is seeing a far fewer, in fact, hardly any designed plays run for him, where it used to be almost all Cooper Kupp. The reason for that is because there's more balance here. They have a guy like Puka. They have Kyron Williams, who's done great. They're just trying to diversify this offense. This is smart by Sean McVay, and we've seen some smart coaching the last couple weeks because this offense, now that they have all their pieces back, has scored 37 against Arizona. Yeah, that's the Cardinals, sure. But then 36 against the Cleveland Browns, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL. This offense is rolling. I feel like it's only a matter of time before Kupp also gets rolling. I think this might be the week because they're going to need him against the Baltimore Ravens. This has nothing to do with this matchup. It is not a great spot for any receiver, for an offense in general, but I think they are going to design plays for Cooper Kupp specifically in this game. They're going to get him targeted more because they're going to need him. They're going to have a harder time running the ball. I don't think like Puka is going to dominate against this secondary. So I'm going to take a chance and say that Kupp is not just startable, but maybe in line for a big game. You want the best advice to set a winning lineup so you can clinch a playoff spot or just head in on a high note? We got you covered. Don't forget all our start sit advice right here with our week 14 playlist.